Hello everybody and welcome back to the Scrapyard, and for our new guests, welcome for the first time. I'm your host, Nathan Muropolder, joined here by Taylor.
Hey!
And Xavier.
People talk about main tanks in the Overwatch League like they talk about NBA centers.
Today we're talking about the Overwatch League, not the NBA. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the fact that Monte, Doa, and Puckett left. Oh no! But also we're going to keep going on with our preseason previews with the Vancouver Titans, the Valiant, and the Atlanta Reign. Because, I mean, just because some casters left doesn't mean anything's changed. Roll intro. Before we get into it, though, I just wanted to remind you guys that if you want to follow us on Instagram or Twitter, you can do that at ScrapyardMedia. Additionally, you can, of course, find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, especially where you're listening right now, at ScrapyardMedia. I want to give a special shout-out, though, to our YouTube channel, where you can, of course, listen to the podcast, but you can also find some short clips done by me, Taylor, and Xavier. Sometimes they're fun, weird subjects, sometimes they're more serious topics, but they are there for your enjoyment, and I would suggest checking them out. I'm pretty proud of some of them.
You have a very silly one up right now. You should watch it. It's very funny.
It's very fun. You can do that at ScrapyardMedia.
So, Monte Cristo, in a Twitter thread, explained why he was leaving the league, other than his contract being up. And shortly after, it came out that Doa was also leaving because of the same kind of reasons, and Puckett because it's not that he's leaving the league, but he's just going to be doing mostly East Coast things to stay with his family because he's a dad, and it's probably better than to travel around the world. But it opened up the discussion of, is Overwatch League dying because they're losing these big names in the league and some of the clout? And is it because there's so many just people who get into the league casually and not coming from a maybe have played the game standpoint, or from a analysis, I like statistics, hard facts kind of attitude towards the league?
That's a lot of stuff packed in there. But I guess starting off with Monte Cristo leaving, and Doa leaving, because they are a package deal. I mean, for one, like, I don't like the public image of Monte Cristo. I think, like, what he projects, I dislike. Mm-hmm. However, there is literally no denying that Monte Cristo is one of the most influential people in esports in general. Mm-hmm. And I think is somebody that the league needed to have going into, like, the first and second season, because he is a notable face. And I guarantee he is somebody that helped Malik, Zoe, Bren, Sideshow, all them cats on that desk and doing commentary. I guarantee he helped them become substantially better. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to hearing in the future, obviously, some of what Monte did behind the scenes, because I bet he was a part of a lot of, like, the video packages or really helping players' personality get across, because one of the big things you learn kind of looking at the history before we started even watching esports is that Doa and Monte Cristo, they, not the first, because I can't really say that not being a historian, but they were kind of one of the first in the past several years to be like this tight duo that had a lot of personality. When they were doing League, when they were doing Apex, they had, like, tons of personality. They were these respected voices, and I think that that's valuable. And Monte Cristo leaving is a bummer, and same with Doa, because the league does lose some
amazing talent.
Yeah, and some of that, like, familiarity with established esports fans, because you have Doa and Monte Cristo, and you're losing some history too, because Doa and Monte Cristo are connected with cats like Jaehong, Jonak, Jake, Taimu, some of, like, the old school dudes that were playing before Overwatch League was even, like, a thought. And they have that connection, and that's super valuable when it comes to casting, because this is the same thing with Wolf and Achilleos, because they also talk about the history of Apex and stuff, but it's nice having somebody in commentary that can have a throwback. So if somebody has a crazy game, they could be like, this is vintage Taimu, this is like Apex Season 1, blah, blah, blah. And it gives the game a sense of history that it doesn't have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't have the history of almost every other esport, you know?
Yeah.
So it actually kind of gives the game some kind of history behind it, which I think is super cool. So losing them does suck.
Yeah. But, as you said, they were familiar with some of the older cats. And when it comes down to it, them being replaced with a Custa and a Jake that have been in the league for a long time, who Custa is friends with Sideshow and others. He's familiar with playing in the league, especially because he was on the LA Valiant. So he's familiar with a lot of players too, which is where this history is going to keep coming from. So it's like, oh, I know exactly what what he's doing when he's watching an LA Valiant game, or even people who've been traded off the LA Valiant, like Space or and etc.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, if you think that them losing just these two guys, because Monte Cristo and Doa are the ones that are in fact leaving. It's not that Puckett's leaving; he's just not going to be at every game. Mm-hmm. So, if you think that them losing these two big names is going to be the downfall of the esport and what is going to cause the 2020 season to be a failure, I don't think that logically locks together, because it's not that nobody liked Monte Cristo and Doa. They were good faces, but everybody was starting to be like, I really like these new faces that are coming in.
I mean, Uber and Mr. X are the A-team commentary. They did the grand finals. They do the vast majority of the big games. It's clear that the people running Overwatch League and the production see Uber and Mr. X as the A-team.
Mm-hmm.
And then Monte Cristo and Doa were a solid, 1B kind of thing. Where they were that number 2, but when it comes to the grand finals, there's a reason why Uber and Mr. X did it.
Yeah.
And so I think if you lost Uber, and then you lost Monte Cristo, and then it kind of got weird, then you're losing your A team, you're losing your strong B team, and then I think you kind of start thinking, oh, I wonder what the hell's going on here.
Yeah.
But I think with Doa and Monte Cristo both leaving at the same time, it seems to me Monte Cristo had issues, and Doa is basically a package deal with Monte Cristo. Yeah. And I think that both of them have the exact same philosophies and what they want to do. And, Monte Cristo was like, yo, we can't come to agreements. And Doa was like, well, I'm not going to stay here and cast with whoever.
Jake.
Right. Yeah, I'm not going to do that because
Monte Cristo and Doa go back even, professionally playing in, league and stuff.
So it totally makes sense why they left, but I think that they served their purpose, and it would be great having them go on, and I think that a big part of them leaving is Nate and Ans are leaving and going to Fortnite esports, and then this new dude coming in and them not really vibing, because that's not the dude that hired him.
Yeah.
Right. And so things change when some new dude comes into leadership, and I guarantee that was a big rift, but they served their purpose. The Overwatch League needed to sign Doa and Monte Cristo to give it that legitimacy in Season 1. If they didn't have them, Overwatch League would look like, oh, you're disrespecting the history of Overwatch esports, and having them there gave the league legitimacy.
Yeah.
Right.
And that helped so much. But I think them leaving is fine because you have dudes like ZP, Jake, Bren, Sideshow. You have more homegrown talent coming in. And, they're not leaving and Overwatch League is scrambling to find people. They have people.
Yeah, and I think last kind of thing is they had Doa, Monte Cristo, and then you have to remember in Season 1, Golden Boy was around for a majority of the first part of the inaugural season.
And he became the host of esports.
And then he became the host of esports and everything else. So it's it's not a bad thing that they lost. You didn't see people freaking out when Golden Boy was like, hey, I'm only going to be here for big events. Or him stopped showing up and suddenly was only there for big events. Nobody freaked out. But because Monte Cristo basically said, hey, I wasn't vibing with this dude, and Doa also left without kind of saying too much, it would just kind of seemed like, oh my god, nobody likes this new guy, blah, blah, blah. And it's just hardcore, long time esports fans who probably have followed Doa and Monte Cristo from League through Apex to now this, are well, I'm losing out. But then again, I have to bring back how many people who have just stumbled upon Overwatch League is oh, you know what, I kind of like this. I'm really cool with this. And they're just very casual. They may have never picked up the game before, but they're watching it and they're like, oh, I can see how you guys get into this. I see why it brings this community together. And then seeing it when they're oh man, the Giants just got, a home run. It's like, oh, sports, 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 sports. And then I just think that there's a very loud, small percentage that is like, this is going to be the death. And then there's the majority that's not.
I mean, Overwatch was
minority.
Yeah, Overwatch was supposed to die like last year.
Yeah.
And I think Overwatch was supposed to die like the year before that. I'm pretty sure Overwatch
was supposed to die the day it came out.
Yeah, like Overwatch. Apparently, Overwatch has been a dead game for like 2 years, and Overwatch League was supposed to be dead after like the first season. So like all I watch are niche sports. I watch UFC, sumo, random sports that come on. Like I watch niche sports. I watch pro wrestling. That's super niche, and there's this weird thing in niche communities, and you see this in gaming too.
Yeah,
where small fuck ups and things that do go very wrong are suddenly like, this thing is dying. The UFC was supposed to be dead so many times last decade off decisions they made, and they didn't die. You know, there are so many times where the WWE have had their lowest ratings ever, but they're still getting bigger and bigger money for their TV deals.
Right.
And so I think there is a weird hyperbolic thing going on where, you know, some people are saying Overwatch League is dying, and people with big platforms are saying Overwatch League is dying, despite some of the efficacy of things. Thorin and Richard Lewis and all these esports journalists say that I disagree with, but there's no point in going into that right now. But that, like, there is some. They say it, and then suddenly everybody starts picking up on, oh, it's dying, and then more outlets that don't ever talk about Overwatch League are like, is Overwatch League dying? And it's like, no, it's fine. You know, we've talked about, like, we made jokes where it's like, this will become a My Hero Academia podcast because Overwatch League might not be around next season. We didn't know if there was going to be a season 3. It could have folded, but it stayed, and it might go into season 4. It may not.
Yeah.
But I think there is a level of, like, calming the fuck down because it's not dying, but also being willing to talk about the issues with the league, which we do. We've had whole segments where we talk about what the league is doing wrong, but we also understand that it's not fucking dying.
Yeah.
I think it'll be dying if, you know, suddenly next season they're like, oh yeah, no more homestands. Our bad. And then it's like, oh, you guys fucked up. You know? Yeah. Or, you know, they fail to get, I don't know if they have another Twitch or ESPN deal, but, you know, if it stops being shown on Disney XD and ESPN at all, and they can't get, you know, a mixer deal or some shit like that, and it's like, yeah, you guys are kind of struggling. But I think the Overwatch League will be around if it's not this grand, worldwide spanning thing. I think it will always be around as long as Overwatch is a thing. Because even if it's not the biggest esport in the world, it'll probably still be bigger than Rainbow Six, Rocket League, you know, some other games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll have their space no matter what.
Yeah, no, definitely. And again, I think people who are like, oh, Overwatch, like, because we were making jokes that Overwatch was dead during stage 2, where we were looking at, like, the audience attendance and we're slowly watching it like decrease.
Yeah.
But then the homestand, but then the homestands came and they were sold out. And then it's like the Atlanta homestand was even sold out, and it was like all these homestands were getting sold out. The finale was sold out long before it was announced that it was a rematch between Shock and Vancouver. As fast as that game went, but it was still like
sold out.
There was still plenty of like hype around it. And like we've said before, if the hype for the homestands goes away and like you don't get as many homestand like games in, because I feel like the reason why so many teams are pushing like make sure you're buying our homestand tickets, is because everybody's waiting to buy homestand tickets for those first couple of matches. And then they're like, is it worth going to see it?
Yeah.
You know, wait to
like?
hear like the like games that are happening in New York or whatever the first week is. Wait to see, what are people saying about, was it fun? Like waiting to see the reviews online. And then again, it's like take those reviews with a grain of salt, because just because that location was bad doesn't mean the next location is going to be bad.
I mean, we could say Overwatch League is dying when, like, if the Justice, because they have 5 fucking homestands. if like the third Washington Justice homestand looks like Blizzard Arena in like stage 3, then we could be like, you know what?
Maybe something's up.
Yeah, like maybe there's something going on. But I think that even if the homestand model, it'd be cool if it works. But I think that is something you need to foster over a long time. I don't think you can expect to have this like traditions and fan things that actual established leagues do, because you're only in your 3rd season.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully we see people try to, you know, make those nice little chants and, you know, some of the things that make going to a sporting event fun. And hopefully they do that.
Yeah.
But also, I think the biggest thing, and here's something Monte Cristo talked about, and I guess this kind of leads into the Valiant, but the Overwatch League still has a giant problem with, like, promoting players' personalities.
Yeah.
And getting across who players are and, like, what they do beyond, you know, the photo with the arms crossed and them talking about, like, I've always wanted to be in this league and trying to be, like, super cool and shit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Overwatch League needs to do a much better job of explaining the relationships between players, friendships, you know, things that they like to do. Even small stuff, like when I think Malik played soccer with Ben Best and I want to say Soon, and they just like talked, and I was like, oh, that's super neat.
Yeah.
Or they had like a video feature on Carpe and DM and their friendship.
Yeah.
And I think you need to have more of those, because a homestand model isn't going to succeed if you don't have stars. I can't wait to see what London Spitfire homestands are going to look like, because there is 0 star power on that team.
Yeah.
But if you can get that star power across,
yeah,
you might have something cooking. But, you know, there's another team with no star power, and that's the LA Valiant.
Yeah. They had a 12-16 last season, a 56-61-4 map record. Their first 3 games of this season are versus Dallas, Vancouver, and Seoul.
Jesus Christ.
Which is rough. And they only have a few members of their original roster still remaining. So, that's just reading Dallas, Vancouver, and Seoul.
Those are some hard-ass games.
Yeah.
So,
was it Platchat that Custis said he thinks the only people that they are even with right now is Dallas?
Yeah,
that's the only one they have a chance against, I think.
Yeah, Vancouver rolls them. Seoul profits them. And so they got rid of Space, Agilities, Kariv, Fact Fiction, and Custa, which are giant losses.
Huge.
And they signed Apply, who is... I like him.
Right.
He's cool on social media. Dreamer, tank that I know nothing about. Lastro, who... It was on the podcast we listened to. Their coach, Packing 10, talked about how, you know, Lastro is one of the best kind of supports that they could have gotten. And I like the confidence. You know, I think you have a giant shoes to fill replacing Space and then Kariv and then Custa. And that's hard. But I think if Lastro ends up being this Kariv-esque player that can just hold down his position, that goes a long way. I think the biggest thing is you just need to have players that don't suck. Right. And it seems like Packing 10 has that philosophy where you just hopefully have players that don't suck, even if they aren't like unbelievable players. And I think Lastro does fit into that. He talked about, in terms of replacing Custa's productivity, he really looks at McGravy as the leader on this team.
Okay.
Yeah, so he told a story of how, you know, he basically everything was a wash, and he told McGravy, like, hey, we want you to come to tryouts, but we're not going to give you any preferential treatment, even though you've been on the team. You're going to have to earn your spot. And McGravy came in and earned his fucking spot. And, you know, he told some stories about how even last season McGravy would get on the mic and try and hype his team up. And it seems like McGravy has, in his words, you know, matured a lot and is an actual leader on the team. And obviously McGravy's going to get a lot of playtime this season.
Yeah.
As opposed to last season. And, you know, he didn't really get any time to shine when he was at Florida. So this might be like his, you know, new lease on life. And his chance to kind of prove that, you know, he's a good player.
This is McGravy's chance to get opportunities to go to other teams also.
Yeah, because he was, he was basically gone from the Valiant until he went for that open tryout. So this is kind of a second chance in the league to really prove that he's a very good player.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to do that, and I don't know how much the Valiant are going to win because they are in a disgusting division, and they have to play the Shock and the Titans and the Gladiators and Dallas, which Dallas is pretty good looking, way better than the Valiant look. So they have a really hard road ahead of them, and I'm kind of worried that
they also only have 7 people in their roster. Like, they have, isn't the bare minimum like 6?
Or no, the bare minimum's 8.
They need one more person.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure they signed somebody.
They just
haven't announced it yet. But they're basically running the minimum that you can. And I think that's interesting. I wonder if they're looking at, like, if the team is doing better than expected, then you might fuck around and try and bring somebody in or buy someone out and make a playoff push. But if your team is just sucking and it's a developmental year, then you ain't got to spend no more money and you just ride with the dudes you have. You ride with Shax, you ride with KSF, you ride with KSP.
Right.
And do that, do that whole bit. So I think they are maintaining some flexibility with what they can do. Because obviously, I doubt they're expecting to take the league by storm.
Yeah, I think they're going into this season knowing we're going to have some of the toughest games, and it's going to be a miracle if we do what we did especially without Kareev. So here's to hoping that these new guys, who I just have to say, the Tank Dreamer came from the weirdest named team I've ever seen, Sydney Drop Bears.
Oh yeah, no, they're fun.
That's and I know that they have to be on an Australian team, but I feel like, at least from the dudes that we do kind of know about, this is going to be okay for them. Yeah. They're not going to do amazing, but they're just going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, Shax, he's cool. KSF is fine. It's just you're really missing your playmakers. You're missing Custa, who is a playmaker. Agility is a playmaker. Kareev a playmaker. And Space a playmaker. So you're missing dudes that are going to push you past good teams in an upset. And so I think for them to win games, everything needs to go right. I don't see them having potential to reverse sweep a team or turn around something or, catch a team off guard. Everything needs to be perfect for them to beat Paris. Yeah. For them to just beat an okay team. Everything needs to go well.
In comparison to when we were talking about Washington and some of the East Coast teams, where we were they seem to all be banking on that these teams are still going to be bad. Valiant is banking on the fact that they can hope that at least they'll have a competition against Dallas.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't see them winning. I think 12 their last season is the max that they can win. But I don't see them going over 12, and I don't really see them getting 12. I think 10, because 12 is just a lot to ask, especially because a lot of the okay teams are better this year, and the bad teams at least have other than Boston, but a lot of the bad teams have one dude that you can realistically see
being the pop off,
going insane. But none of these dudes I really see popping off like that.
It's all fun and games until we witness Valiant being gods.
Yeah, you never know. Lastro might be the GOAT, and Shax and KSF might be the next great DPS duo that was being held back by Space. You never know.
We may never know.
But the Valiant is the worst team we're going to talk about today?
Yeah.
So,
poor babies.
Sorry guys, but maybe 10 wins. 10 wins seems right.
Yeah.
You kind of beat... Even 10 wins kind of feels like a lot.
I know, it's the more the numbers I say, the more I'm oh, that sounds too high. And it feels terrible because, the LA Valiant is, one of my preferred teams to, watch. They have, well, now less so, but they have some of the most interesting stories, and, even now, hearing what McGravy's trying to do, and, how hard he's trying to step up to be the leader, it's damn, I would hate to have to watch the Valiant go through the same thing that they went through last year. But if the Valiant do have one of those amazing turnarounds, they're the new Shanghai. So
and
without the losing streak.
And I think a last point is, so London is kind of interesting because it's a bunch of people that I just straight up have no idea who they are. I don't know what to expect. They might go crazy. Glister might be the next great player. But with the Valiant, I feel like I know what I'm going to get from a lot of these guys because I've seen them. I know Apply is fine. I know Shax and KSF are fine. I'm pretty sure they signed KSP, who's a pretty good sniper, but he's fine. McGravy, fine. I have a sense of what this team is, and that's not super exciting. At least with London, I can watch a few of their games and be like, yo, who the fuck is that dude? He's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't really see much potential with that with the Valiant.
It's like hearing about the Shock signing a sniper dude, and you're like, well, I've never seen that, and if they happen to have to run a sniper, this is going to be really exciting to see this dude come out. I think his name's Ans, A-N-S. And so it's like, oh, that's going to be a lot of fun. Again, Shock is so DPS heavy. They have every kind of DPS pick you need picked.
Yeah, the Shock are going to play Ans against the Valiant.
Yeah.
That's the type of disrespect that that's the type of level the Valiant feel at.
Oh, it's rough.
But there's another team that the Shock will not be playing Ans against, and that's the Atlanta Reign.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they went 16-12 last season with a 69, 50, and 1 map record.
Nice.
They ended the season on a 9-game winning streak. The first 3 games of the season are versus Toronto, Paris, and Boston.
Win, win, win.
So a significantly easier start.
Yeah. They're keeping a majority of their former roster. The only supports are Dogman and Massa, but me and Xavier were talking, and I don't think Burnout, because I heard this a lot where they're talking about Burnout with few supports, but with Atlanta Reign, they have a very heavy academy.
Yeah, you literally just bring somebody from Atlanta Academy. I'm pretty sure that's what they did with Dogman. They still have Kodak down there, who's very good. You still have... That's what they did with Gator.
Yes.
They brought Gator up at the end to play Sigma. I feel like Atlanta Reign are in a good position where if Dogman sucks, or Massa sucks, you could kind of just mess around and bring somebody up from your Academy roster. That seems like the move that they'll probably do. But, so they traded Funny Astro to Philly. They cut Daco and Enlar. And, interestingly enough, Enlar is playing Apex Legends now. So that's pretty cool. They signed Edison.
So while some members of the leagues are legends from Apex, some are playing Apex Legends.
They signed Edison. They signed Hawk, they signed Gator at the very end of last season. They signed Sharp, who passes the Sure4 test. And they have Mentalist as their assistant coach, who was from Busan Wave, which makes sense because they got their boy, Edison.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think this team... There's so many questions. With what we know, I know that Baby Bay is not going to be played as much.
Yeah, Baby Bay's...
And if he isn't played as much as a sniper, they might try to fix him into a different role, because I feel like they will do what it takes to keep the nice faces, Baby Bay, Dogman, on the board. So they might be training him to be a different kind of DPS, going away from sniper, because he is not a good sniper, to... I don't think he's the best sniper.
On their team.
Out of all the snipers in the league, do you think Baby Bay is, top 10?
Oh, God, no.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's not the best sniper.
Yes.
Now, especially with Sharp, who passes the Sure4 test.
Sharp is a beast.
So it's I can see them trying to get Baby Bay onto a different hero, is what I'm saying, so that they can keep him at least rotated in and out.
I mean, at least all we know is if they're going to play Ash, Baby Bay is going to be in. Because Baby Bay is the Ash dude.
Yeah.
He did that. But I think Baby Bay is cool just because he's a face. But also, I don't know, he's just been around for a while. I think Baby Bay is just a cool-ass dude to have on your roster. by all accounts, he's a dope-ass teammate.
He's like a flex just to have on your roster.
Yeah, it's just, he's
is
a good dude to have.
He's the Chad of the Overwatch League.
Yeah.
Like, everybody says Super is, but no, Baby Bay is, like, legitimately the Chad of the Overwatch League.
Yeah, like, it's nice to have Baby Bay. Obviously, he's not playing over Sharp, because Sharp is dope as hell. I love Sharp. He's the dude. A lot of people aren't as high on Sharp as I am, but you know what? Dude hits, like, the stupidest shots. I'm a giant fan of Sharp. Edison, I feel like he doesn't need to be talked about because everybody has talked about how good Edison is. And I think Erster and Edison is a disgusting DPS combo that will probably win them games alone. You know, they play the Valiant and they're just going to destroy the Valiant. Literally only be... They could have Erster, Edison, and then a team full of Yanis's and be totally cool.
Yeah.
So I think that's super dope. Hawk and Gator is interesting. I don't know a lot about Hawk. Hawk is sort of the dude from, like, North American Contenders that everybody talks about. He's, like, the highest profile signing. And Gator was really good on Sigma, but I'm not entirely sure how dope he is on, like, everything else. So that'll be interesting to see how they work together. And obviously they both come from Atlanta Academy, so seeing this duo together on the big stage is another interesting wrinkle to this team. And their supports are cool. I like Dogman. Moss is cool.
Yeah.
I think this team rides or dies with its DPS, though.
Yes.
Very not similar to the Shock, because the Shock also have the best tanks and supports.
Isn't
but
one of the
similar...
coaches from Atlanta Reign a former Shock coach?
I think so.
Because I remember Baby Bay or Sleepy, somebody that's like from Shock said Atlanta's really good because they have a former, like the former coach that built the Shock team, I think, is on Atlanta, so that explains a lot.
Yeah, but I like the versatility of this DPS line. Erster's going to be in all the time, but then you just be like Erster Baby Bay, Erster Sharp, Erster Edison, and
it's the Shock model of DPS. You have a very versatile DPS lineup, but you also have, like, your very solid tanks and supports that can make sure whatever you put in for DPS can work.
Yeah. And I like Dogman because he got a lot better throughout the course of the season. He started off not very good, and then he became very good. And so I like a player that improves a lot.
He deserves every time he should talk to somebody else.
Yeah, he's
especially now.
Yeah. However, I'm not, like, 100% dedicated to them being, like... I see people ranking them, like, third behind, like, the Shock and New York. I see people ranking them top 5. And I'm not entirely married to the fact that they're top 5. Because while last season, they were dope. I remember every time we talked about Atlanta, we were like, they're really good. They're just kind of not on the level yet. But they every time they played top teams, they competed. They were one of the few teams that would push the Shock to map 5s. They beat the Shock. They push all the best teams to map 5s. Clearly, Atlanta's super talented. However, I do wonder what their stage 4 success meant, because in the playoffs, they did not look up to task. And I just wonder if that was like a playoff experience thing. They didn't have it. The moment was too big. But after they beat the Shock, they got rubbished by the Spark, and then they got destroyed by New York. And I wonder what that means for them. You know, I wonder if that means that they're stacking up against the best teams in the league, or if they're just this year again gonna absolutely stomp the bad teams instead of kind of play closer with them like they did last year, and then just push the best teams to the limit but not beat them,
destroy them.
That's a very genuine question I have. But obviously they're going to be dope. I think 16 wins is like a perfect bar for them. I'll probably give them like 18, like a +2, because Edison is very good, and you're not having Baby Bay low-key throw sometimes.
Yeah,
like in the playoffs, he was bad. Baby Bay was bad.
He's not the best sniper in a meta where snipers were kind of useful. So it's just let him work on a different kind of DPS hero.
Yeah, but they are hoping Edison becomes very good.
Yeah.
And they're hoping Erster can keep up what he does, which is kill things. But I think there is a lot of good things on this team, and they are going to be a team that I will watch every single game of. You know, some teams don't inspire a lot of confidence when it comes to that last match of the day. Damn, do I really want to watch this?
Yeah.
But Atlanta Reign, no matter what, man, I'm gonna watch them. If I miss their game, I'm gonna watch the replay because I know Atlanta's gonna come with some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Even in GOATs, Atlanta was busting out like Tracer and shit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Atlanta is a very fun team to watch.
They're definitely one of the funner teams. Again, looking at the dudes and knowing the dudes that they have on the team, I can't believe people are ranking them like a top 5 team.
So if we look at kind of what the top teams would be, we obviously have Shock, Vancouver, New York, and there's no reason not to have them in the top 3 unless...
And then Gladiators.
Yeah, until... cool it. But we have those 3 solidified, and then you have to look at...
Wafer thin Gladiators. It's a
Lord.
poster in front of the hole that is any other team.
And then you have to look at Shanghai. I think you have to seriously look at as a top team. You have to look at Philly as a top team. You have to look at Seoul as a top team. And then you have to look at probably... Nah, not the Gladiators.
The Gladiators.
No, you have to look at those 3 as like top teams. And then Atlanta as well. So like kind of those 4. And I think Atlanta... I think they're all even. Like, I think Atlanta plays Seoul super hard. I think they play Philly super close. I think that Atlanta, if they're not top 3, but if they're top 5, they're like 5.
Just
I think they're 5
by.
because I like Seoul better than them.
That's true.
It's going to be hard to say if they're top 5 until we see all those teams play. Like, it's not something you can predict at this point. They are too close to call.
And the fucked up thing is Atlanta doesn't play until the end of the month.
Yeah.
And so I worry that Atlanta's going to become...
Complacent?
No, just like super underrated or overrated because we're going to see a lot of games until Atlanta plays. And so people might be like, oh my god, this one dude is super crazy. Are Paris Eternal the best team in the... Are Paris Eternal the best team in the Overwatch League? Or something stupid like that. And by the end of the month, people are going to be like, oh yeah, Atlanta.
It's going to be that same hype that got around the Gladiators for no reason last season. Like, no reason. Everybody was like, the Gladiators are it, guys. They are the best team, guys. I never once saw a reason why these people were so on the Gladiators. Every caster was like, they're it, my guy.
We fucking only bring up the Gladiators to shit on them. Like, if you wanted to describe
We're
our
a
channel...
young...
Gladiator hate
cast.
Like, if you wanted to describe our cast with one clip, it would just be like, put the Gladiators logo over like some skinny ass kid's body who just gets picked up by his shirt off the ground and just smacked back down.
And that Xavier thinks the Guangzhou Charge are it.
Bruh.
That's it. That's his top. That's his 4 team. It's 4 Atlanta.
You know
it's
what?
Guangzhou Charge.
You know what? You know what? No. But they're like at least 6 or 7.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah, Atlanta Reign. Lock in already what your prediction for that was?
Nah, dog. We ain't locking in none of this. But Atlanta, like, what, 18 wins probably?
Yeah.
Maybe 20 at the high end.
Yeah.
I don't see them going like 22-6 or something.
No, they won't.
Like that.
Speaking of going over 20, though, the Vancouver Titans went 25-3 last season. Were all 3 of them lost?
The Shock?
No, they had Shock,
No.
Washington, Valiant.
No.
Yes.
Is it Shock in a main?
No, Shock stage 4.
Okay. That's it. I was like, it's
Shock,
like, because like
Washington,
the stage finals don't count.
Yeah, they don't count for the record. But yeah, so Shock, Washington, Valiant.
Okay.
So
keep in mind, all the losses that they had were absolute drubbings.
Yeah, they're really weird.
Like, I think Washington 4-0'd them, right?
Yes.
They Valiant 3-1 them because they got mapped.
And the Shock shocked them.
And the Shock
fucked them up.
Yeah.
The Shock did what the Shock have been doing for what, since stage 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, with an 89-28 map record, they've never tied. They'll be going to their first 3 games of the season against the best team, the Gladiators, Valiant, and Shanghai.
Ooh, that's a tough first. I think that's a super tough first 3 games. I think the Gladiators are good enough to, like, surprise
The Titans.
the Valiant win. But then Shanghai, I think that's a
whoa!
tough
The
game.
Valiant win?
No, the Valiant is a win for them.
Oh, okay.
No, the Valiant aren't
say.
gonna. No.
The Valiant does the same thing they did last time. For some reason, Kareev shows up
I
and
just tried to
everybody's
slide that hot take in there, like the Valiant win, and then Shanghai. So the Valiant is a win for the Titans, and then Shanghai. I have to see, but my super early, uneducated opinion: Shanghai beats the Titans
Okay.
on that game. I think Shanghai either beats the Titans or pushes them super hard. I don't see that being a gimme game at all. So those are 3 tough games because the Gladiators are scrappy, and there is always the possibility that Bird Ring just shits down your throat.
Yeah. That's always... That's the Bird Ring test.
Yeah, and then Valiant, easy, but Shanghai
is... It's possible that Shanghai just fucks you up.
Yeah. So they had very interesting off-season moves, very controversial. They cut Tizzy, Hurrig, Repel, Bumper, and they only signed Fissure, Tank, former Soul Dynasty, who was retired. They pulled him out of retirement, and Jaehong, who I don't think needs an introduction.
They only signed Fissure and Jaehong.
No,
It's kind of only though, man.
but
like,
it's the only people they signed.
I mean, it is, but...
those are some big.
Those are some big
But
fucking
it's like
signs.
they don't need it. Like
They literally got
don't-
like Old Man Logan and Iron Man. I'm trying to leave, but they keep pulling me back in.
So Fissure's like, everyone hates Fissure, obviously,
Yeah.
because he left the Gladiators hanging dry in the playoffs, which is like a dick move.
Yeah.
And then with Soul, he left like midway through the season, and he wasn't really playing that good in Goats anyway. But in season 1, he was an MVP candidate.
Yep.
And I think season 2, Goats just wasn't his thing, and I don't think he was super ready to be back. I think Fissure is a massive upgrade over Bumper, and I think Fissure is going to play at a MVP-like level the entire season. I understand the skepticism behind Fissure because he did ditch 2 teams midway through the season twice.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I do give stock to him coming out of retirement to play with Vancouver, and he is going to have a giant role. You know, Vancouver has no problem playing around their main tank being a fucking maniac.
That's
Right.
true.
If Fissure wants to play aggressive and have all the resources to him, and he's good at it, I don't see any reason why Vancouver would just be like, nah, dog, we're going to play around Haxel. I think that they are perfectly content with just riding the hot hand. Whether Somansu's the hot hand, Haxel's the hot hand, Twilight's the hot hand. They're just right that.
Yes.
And I like that. I think Fissure is an upgrade over Bumper. And the only worries that I have is letting go of Tizzy, because I think that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I think letting go of a main tank that you need is fucking dumb, because we saw with Bumper. Tizzy came in because Bumper wasn't a good Orisa. He wasn't going to be good at that role, so they brought Tizzy in. And that's insurance. Because I think tank is the one role where shit shifts a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if Fissure comes in and is asked to play, you know, Orisa, and he just sucks at Orisa, or if he's just not feeling Rhine, you can't be like, yo, Tizzy, you're really good at Orisa, come in. You can't do that. You just have to live with Fissure being shit for a little bit. And I don't like that lack of security. Because I think tank is the one role where things really do switch up on you a lot.
Yes.
We see, we saw that with Super. He's played Ryan and Goats, he was a god, and then Goats ends, Orisa becomes meta, and suddenly it's Smurf has to play because Super isn't up to par on that hero.
Yeah.
Right.
And I value that type of, that depth. I think that's why Shanghai is in a good position, because they have depth at tank. Where if they're one of their main tank is shit, you can kind of figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't like a team that doesn't take insurance. And it's not that I don't like Vancouver Titans, obviously, but it's like, so many teams we've seen make moves where it's all like, oh, they're clearly thinking. Even Atlanta, we talked about, just because they only have Dogman and Masa doesn't mean they don't have this rich Atlanta academy just to be like, yoink, from. And like, I mean, sure, there's other teams that have academy teams too, but it's like, for a team that was an unmovable force for so long, not to try and have some backup plans for any of their players, it's like, what are you guys doing?
And I think that's why Jae-Hong signing pissed a lot of fans off, because Jae-Hong isn't going to play over Twilight. Period. He's just not going to play over Twilight. Unless Twilight just is a garbage Orisa or something.
Right.
Jae-Hong isn't going to play. Jae-Hong's there as more of like a player coach, I think. And if he plays, dope. Like, he's going to get some playing time. But with whatever you sign Jae-Hong with in that roster spot, I think a lot of people looked at that and was like, why not get another tank?
Yeah.
Even if it's somebody that's not top tier, why not keep Tizzy? Why not sign fucking Roar? Or just
Sure.
like, you know, somebody. Sign
Yeah.
just a body. Because, you know, Fissure, yet again, might ditch your team halfway through the season. But he might just have a hero that he sucks at. And you just can't deal with it. Or the meta might shift in a way where, you know, they're returning to dive. And he hasn't played dive in a long time, so he's feeling off. But you have somebody else who's comfortable with dive now. There's so many variables that could come into this where I think not having another main tank hurts.
Yeah, it's a bad choice.
Because I feel like you can kind of get away with like a whatever support. The Guangzhou Charge did that last season with Chara. And I think you get away with kind of like whatever DPS, because every DPS in the league is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with main tank, I think you can't get away with a bad tank because, you know, your tank dies first, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Which is what happened to...
And shit switches up so much.
Sato? Isn't that what happened to Sato? He was super aggressive and then just would die first because the communication wasn't working. I think that's what we heard from the Plat chat. And now everybody hates on Sato because he was just constantly dying, and they were like, well, that's why they're losing all the fights.
Yeah, and I mean, you have Poco next to you, and it's not like Poco's this all-time off-tank, but like, as we said when we talked about Philly, now Sato is next to fucking Fury. And I think that that's a giant difference. You know, Sato has a tank partner that is a number 1, number 2 type off-tank in the league, and I think that really means something. Because he will cover up Sato's deficiencies, whatever they may be.
Yeah.
But Vancouver's going to be good. Like, they're still going to be like a top 5 team no matter what.
Yeah.
I do think Vancouver's going to be a lot more vulnerable this season. I do not see them going 25-3 and going on like this giant win streak to begin the season. I really don't see that.
And I can't see them having a like no more ties in their record going into the next year, because literally everyone has stepped up. I can see them getting like rocked by one of those like teams that are like, I don't have to worry about them anymore, and then like Houston comes in and like milli rocks on their.
Well, also here's
grave.
the thing, like I said before, GOATS is a meta where the best team will win, and Vancouver was the best team. But you know, we see in Stage 4, Vancouver is better than Washington,
but
they lost. Vancouver is better than the Valiant, but when GOATS loosened up, they lost. I think now that the meta's a little bit more loose, with, you know, kind of this Doom, Hanzo, 2-2-2 thing going on, it might return to dive. Like, you know, the meta's very in flux. I think Vancouver is vulnerable, and there's more upset potential. So I don't see them ransacking the league and going 25-3 again. I think that's ridiculous to assume. But over 20 wins, yes. 20 and over is like the line.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're going to drop to like 19 wins or anything.
Yeah, no, they're not going to.
Yeah. Like 20, 21 wins is good, but they are definitely going to lose to the upgraded teams.
Yeah, they're not going to still destroy. They're not going to be that like villain persona that we had to deal with for so long, and then they got defeated by the Valiant.
Yeah,
and,
people actually like Vancouver this season because they're not like
too good.
Yeah, which is cool. Like, Vancouver has a lot of fun personalities.
Sorry, Shock.
Now they're just lawful good. Check out our YouTube.
But yeah, I mean, Vancouver is good. Like, that's how
good.
That is the way.
This is the way.
But that's the way.
No, yeah.
Just a reminder, if you want to follow us on Instagram or Twitter, you can do that at ScrapyardMedia. Additionally, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Same tag, ScrapyardMedia. Don't forget, you can come and play video games with us on Xbox or Steam at ScrapyardMedia. Be woke to one another, not broke to one another. Peace out. Roll outro.